George drove her white car and may have hit something and killed it because the car was starting to stink.
She said it was a squirrel.
She started telling these stories from the 25th on. Why? I just want to plant the seed, okay? You don't have to answer me. Why would you do that? Why would you try and pass off the smell? Because we all know that there was a smell in the car. I'm not here to dispute what the smell was, okay? We all know there was a very bad smell in the car. Why would she start to say to her friends and text messages, we have text messages, why would she want to say, hey, I think my dad hit something with the car, and then later on they'll say, yeah, it looks like my dad hit something with the car and the car stinks.
I have no idea.
Jane Velez Mitchell in for Nancy Grace. There you are watching and hearing Cindy Anthony's interview with authorities. And, of course, she has tried to explain the stench, the horrific stench coming out of the car that Casey Anthony used. She said it was pizza that was rotting. Casey Anthony herself blamed it on squirrels. But, of course, cadaver dogs hit on the trunk, and the body farm took air samples, tested them from that trunk, and concluded that it was human decomposition. Let's bring our very patient forensic scientist Tom McClintock and ask you about this dumpster. Now, there has been some speculation, no idea really where it came from, about a dumpster. But if, in fact, a body had been dumped in a dumpster, wouldn't it have the same stench that this trunk would have?
It could, and the thing is that we know that the air samples from the trunk were analyzed by the body farm at the University of Tennessee, and there's a chemical profile that's associated with human decomposition and not of another animal or squirrels. Regarding the dumpster, it could have a different sort of stench, as you call it, but it still would have some sort of chemical profile that's associated with a decomposing human body.
And, you know, this whole case is a study in contrast as we talk about these very morbid subjects. New pictures just coming in as we speak of Casey Anthony at an anything but clothes party. And this apparently was on May 25th. And there you see her wearing only an American flag. This, again, an anything but clothes party, and this is before her daughter disappears. But again, this desire and need to party hardy is an absolute unending theme in this 22-year-old woman's very, very troubled life. Let's go quickly to Nikki Pierce, reporter WDBO. What do you know about this dumpster? Has the dumpster been tested? Have they gone to the landfill where this dumpster dumps out to see whether there's any truth to the speculation, and where did the speculation come from?
Well, I have to say, the first I heard of a recycling bin near the dumpster was last night from Leonard Padilla here on the program. So I'm not entirely sure about that, but I do know that the dumpster beside the Amscot where the car was parked and towed from has been checked by authorities. Furthermore, there's a GPS that's attached to the dump truck that took the trash and took it to a landfill, and there's a specific grid, a specific area in the landfill where it usually dumps. That area has been checked by landfill employees, and so far they haven't found anything.
All right, those on the phone, be patient. We're going to get to you in 1 second. But first, I have to bring in another very patient man, Ben Levitan, telecommunications expert. You just heard talk of GPS. Well, we are hearing in the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pages of documents that are coming in, there are now GPS latitude and longitudes that are being connected with certain text messages because Casey Anthony said hundreds and hundreds of text messages. So shouldn't they know by now where she was during those crucial days after her daughter disappeared and have some kind of a grid of her movements?
That's absolutely right, Jane. We know exactly where she was. I've worked on a lot of expert witness cases, locating people and proving they were either at a location or not. And I have never seen a mountain of evidence like this. This is absolutely incredible. They did the detectives in this case did all the right things. They got all the evidence that we needed to be able to actually track where Casey was every minute. And I think that's why they dumped this out on us. But they didn't give us the very significant dates. So if they have this level of detail on the dates that we need, the 9th, the 10th, the 15th, the 16th, there's really, we take the lying out of this picture completely. because we're back to forensic evidence. We know exactly where she is.
Well, if they know where she is and they've got these hundreds of pinpoints of where she did all these texts and received these texts, why is this case sort of languishing?
Well, that's for the lawyers to answer. And I've gone into court so many times with evidence that's slam dunk and not won the case. And, you know, our job as forensic expert is to tell the truth and explain it to a jury in a simple manner like we do here on your show.
I think the 30-second answer or the 10-second answer is they may have a lot of dots on maps, but they do not have a body. And that is the big problem with this case right now. Carol, Alabama, your question, ma'am.
My question concerns Cindy Anthony, the grandmother. Is it possible, her being an RN, that she may have already had chloroform, and since she did wash some things like pants from inside the car when they received it from the towing company, and chloroform is also used as a solvent, is it possible that she herself may have used the chloroform in the trunk of the car to try to remove that odor? And if so, would she not have removed some forensic evidence when she did that?
Well, first of all, very interesting question. We have to say, Cindy Anthony deserves our respect and compassion. She is a woman who has lost her granddaughter, and she is in no way, shape, or form considered a suspect. This is not an interrogation that we've been listening to. This is an interview. Okay, so the point about the chloroform is interesting, Natisha Lance, because there were web searches for chloroform and chloroform discovered in the trunk. Explain the chloroform issue.
Well, there were searches for chloroform on the computer. However, the chloroform that was found in the trunk, experts have said that it was in such a pure form that it couldn't have come from any type of cleaning solvent or anything like that. It had to have come from a pure form of chloroform itself.
All right, Leonard Padilla, I have to ask you this because I was struck by what you said, perhaps last night, one of the nights recently, that there's always a grain of truth in what Casey Anthony says. Now, she is constantly talking about going off to a job, which apparently she doesn't have. So could there be a grain of truth that, in fact, maybe she was going off to maybe a job that was nefarious or shameful, and this is completely speculative and completely hypothetical because you're saying there was a grain of truth. Where was she going when she said she was going off to these jobs for hours and days at a stretch? What was she doing?
She normally, and if you look at the GPS tracking and the longitudes and latitudes, there was times when she was just here and there. But let me bring something up that you threw in there. When I first went back to Orlando, Jose Baez, the attorney, showed me a card from Jesse, a very loving card sent to Caylee and Casey on Kaylee's first birthday. He wanted me to interpret that as a possibility that this gentleman, Jesse, loved that child so much that he would steal her. There was also a situation where a lot of people don't understand this. Jesse was given a lie detector test by the FBI for 6 hours and passed every bit of it. You can check with his father on that, or Jesse. The thing about it is that Casey has people throwing everybody under the bus in Orlando in order to save her own skin. There was also, after her father attacked her in the home, trying to find out where the granddaughter was, the very first day she was home, there was a letter, a card sent to her that the attorney had saying, "Daughter, I love you very much. I will stand behind you."
Hey, you know what? I'm going to jump in. The reason I asked you was, if, in fact, there were searches for chloroform, and chloroform in a very pure form was found in the trunk, but there's no evidence that she actually bought it, could somebody else have bought it? Could she have some accomplice somewhere that she's been hanging out with when she says she's going to Universal?
Something that I found out about chloroform is that somehow the youngsters, and I call them youngsters, they're in the 20 to 25 age range, somehow they were using chloroform in their sex acts. I don't know exactly if they sniff it or what they do.
What?
But there's, yeah, you look on Ricardo Morales' website on his...
Listen, I don't want to get into saying anything untoward about any individuals.
No, all I'm saying is
just
that
undo that tape.
It's not that hard to come up with. I mean, they just seem to have access to it.
She would call you and say that the baby's at Danny's staying the night, but I'm going to Ricardo's.
No, what she would say is, I'm going to crash it, I'm going to, Mom, I have to work late. I'm just going to leave Caylee at Zanny's because I have to get up in the morning and I'm going to stay at Zanny's. And that way I can go on to work. So she was going to crash at Zanny's.